Has every member recorded their presence? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 47 present, 23 absent, excused, a quorum being present. The House is ready for business. The second order of business is prayer by the chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Today the prayer will be led by House Chaplain Tom Doherty, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by House Page Genevieve Mingus. Will the guests in the gallery please rise?
I think that we need a light quote today, so that's what we're going to have by someone who will not take credit for it, so here goes. The ideal man doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, doesn't swear, doesn't get angry, doesn't exist. Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for creating us all in unique individuals with a variety of talents. Help us to use the abilities you've given us to help our great state. Dear Lord, continue to direct this House as we get deeper into the session. I pray that much will be accomplished. Lord, you've given us all roles in life, and you've allowed us to take a great deal of responsibility. And I just ask for your guidance as we make choices. Give us great discernment. Continue to be with our governor and his staff in their leadership role. Help all of us to work together for the wonderful purpose of leading Idaho. I give you thanks for this day and for the many blessings you provide us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The House will now advance to the third order of business, approval of the journal. The House is at the third order.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary Rules and Administration report that we have read and approved the House Journal of the 66th Legislative Day and recommend same be adopted as corrected. Moved by Wills, seconded by Burgoyne.
I'll ask for the vote when everyone is in their seat. You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries and the report is adopted. The House will now advance to the fourth order of business, consideration of messages from the Governor and the Senate. The House is at the fourth order.
March 13th, from the Office of the Governor. Dear Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to advise you that I have signed today and am transmitting to the Secretary of State the following House bills to wit: House Bill 10, 109, 153, 163, and 203. As always, C.L. Butch Otter, Governor of Idaho. March 13th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I transmit herewith enrolled Senate Bills 1055, 1113, 1007, 1008, 1024, 1092, 1120, and 1043 for the signature of the Speaker. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
Senate Bills 1055, 1113, 1007, 1008, 1024, 1092, 1120, and Senate Bill 1043 will be signed by the Speaker and returned to the Senate.
March 12, 2013. Mr. Speaker, I return herewith House Bills 26, 44, 46, 118, 117, 188, 211, 140, 107, 161, and 181, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Bills 26, 44, 46, 118, 117, 188, 211, 140, 107, 161, and House Bill 181 will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for enrolling.
March 13th, 2013, from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I return here with House Joint Memorial 1, House Bill 55, 251, 253, and 255, which have passed the Senate. Novak, Secretary of the Senate.
House Joint Memorial Number 1, House Bills 55, 151, 153, and 155 will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for enrolling. The House will now advance to the fifth order of business, report of standing committees. The House is at the fifth order.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have printed House Bills 294 and 295. Will's Chairman.
House Bills 294 and 295 will be referred to the Education Committee.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have enrolled House Bills 141, 233, 234, 235, 236, 237, 238, 184, and 187. Will's Chairman.
House Bills 141, 233, 234, 235, 236, 237, 238, 184, and House Bill 187 will be signed by the Speaker and returned to this and referred to the Senate for the signature of the Senate President.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have engrossed House Bill 130 as amended in the Senate and House Bill 167 as amended in the Senate. Will's Chairman.
House Bills 130 as amended in the Senate and 167 as amended in the Senate will be filed for the first reading of engrossed bills.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have transmitted enrolled House Bills 112, 210, 131, 103, 96, 175, 168, 169, 139, and 66 as amended in the Senate to the Governor at 10:30 a.m. as of this date, March 13th, 2013. Will's Chairman. March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Judiciary, Rules, and Administration report that we have transmitted and enrolled House Concurrent Resolution 7, House Concurrent Resolution 16, 6, 10, and 8 to the Secretary of State at 10:26 a.m. as of this date, March 13th, 2013. Will's Chairman. March 13th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Health and Welfare report that we have had under consideration House Bill 268 and recommend that it do pass. Would Chairman.
House Bill 268 will be filed for the second reading.
March 13th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Revenue and Taxation report that we have had under consideration Senate Bills 1107 as amended and 1111 and recommend that they do pass. Collins, Chairman.
Senate Bills 1107 as amended and 1111 will be filed for the second reading.
March 14th, 2013. Mr. Speaker, will your Committee on Education report that we have had under consideration House Bill 275 and Senate Concurrent Resolution 120 and recommend that they do pass. DeMordaunt, Chairman.
House Bill 275 and Senate Concurrent Resolution 120 will be filed for second reading. Without objection, the House will now advance to the eighth order of business, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the eighth order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 296 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Commission for Pardons and Parole for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 297 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Idaho Transportation Department for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions, providing guidance for employee compensation, expressing legislative intent with regard to certain monies being continuously appropriated, authorizing the transfer of highway funds to the Tourism and Promotion Fund, providing reapportionment for contract construction and the right-of-way acquisition, providing reapportionment for airport development grants, providing reapportion for American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, and authorize a transfer of funds for debt service. House Bill number 298 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Idaho State Historical Society for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 299 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Division of Financial Management for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 300 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Legislative Council for fiscal year 2014, exempting appropriation, object, and program transfer limitations, reappropriating certain unexpended and unencumbered balances, providing that the President pro tempore and the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall direct the State Controller to limit the funds transferred to the Legislative Fund for fiscal year 2014 and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 301 by Appropriations Committee, An act appropriating monies to the Executive Office of the Governor for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions, exempting appropriation object and program transfer limitations, and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 302 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Military Division for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions, granting a continuous appropriation for a certain fund, and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 303 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Idaho State Police for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 304 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Idaho State Police for brand inspection and the Racing Commission for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions for brand inspection, limiting the number of authorized full-time equivalent positions for the Racing Commission, and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 305 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Department of Juvenile Corrections for fiscal year 2014, limiting the number of full-time equivalent positions and providing guidance for employee compensation. House Bill number 306 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating monies to the Supreme Court for fiscal year 2014, exempting appropriation from object and program transfer limitations and providing guidance for non-judicial employee compensation. House Bill number 307 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, amending Section 33, 1004E Idaho Code to provide for the use of certain funds for fiscal year 2014.
House Bills 296, 297, 298, 299, 300, 301, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306 and 307 will all be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for printing. The House will now advance to the ninth order of business. First reading of engrossed bills. The House is at the ninth order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 130, as amended in the Senate by Resources and Conservation Committee, relating to irrigation districts. House Bill number 167, as amended in the Senate by Transportation and Defense Committee, an act relating to motor vehicle dealers and salesmen.
House Bill 130 as amended in the Senate and House Bill 167 as amended in the Senate will be filed for second reading. The House will now advance to the 10th order of business, second reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 10th order.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 293 by Appropriations Committee regarding appropriations, Department of Health and Welfare, Mental Health Service, Psychiatric Hospitalization, Substance Abuse Treatment, and Prevention. Senate Bill 1064 by Transportation Committee regarding oversized load permits. House Bill 258 by State Affairs Committee regarding concealed weapons. Senate Bill 1029 by State Affairs Committee regarding codifier corrections.
House Bill 293, Senate Bill 1064, House Bill 258, and Senate Bill 1029 will all be filed for third reading. Without objection, the House will now advance to the 12th order of business, consideration of general orders. The House is at the 12th order.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that myself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House will now resolve itself into a Committee of the Whole. Will the gentleman from District 13 come up and chair the committee? The House will be at ease.
Committee will be in order. The committee will have under consideration Senate Bill 1072 as amended. Are there amendments to the bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman, District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that it has had under consideration Senate Bill 1072 as amended and report progress and beg leave to sit again.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. It will be done. Gentleman from 14.
You need to recognize the bill, Mr. Chairman.
The committee will now have under consideration Senate Bill 116 as amended.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that it has had under consideration Senate Bill 1116 is amended and report progress and beg leave to sit again.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried and it will be done. The chair will take a point of personal privilege. We did talk with the minority leader, and Senate Bill 1072 is amended and 1116 as amended. Apparently, we did not get the amendments in time, and so we are intending to go back into general orders on Monday to take care of those. So, the House will now have the committee will now have under consideration House Bill 231. Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, the motion to amend the bill, House Bill 231, has been made by Representative Luker and seconded by Representative Lurcher.
If there are no objections, the amendment to House Bill 231 will be considered read, and the chair will recognize the good gentleman from District 15 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment adds an additional section to correct an oversight in the underlying bill. The purchasing section in the original bill only referred to personal property purchases. This amendment would extend the purchasing provisions to public works, construction, and services as originally intended in the underlying bill.
Is there any further debate in favor of the amendment? Is there any debate in opposition to the amendment? Debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to House Bill 231 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the amendment to House Bill 231 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further sections to the amendment.
Is there correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Luker and seconded by Representative Lurcher.
If there are no objections, the correction to title to House Bill 231 will be considered read. You've heard the motion for the correction to title. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the correction to title is adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No further amendments to the bill.
Good gentleman, District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that is had under consideration House Bill 231 report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 265. Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 265 has been made by Representative Moyle and seconded by Representative Crane.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 of the bill be considered read, and the chair will recognize the good gentleman from District 32 to open debate.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 265 is one that sets out to clarify when a contractor or a professional engineer needs to be engaged in these maintenance projects, and what the amendment does is clarify when that is absolutely essential. All those parties that have been in discussion about this piece of legislation agree that this is an amendment that needs to be made.
Is there further debate in favor of the amendment? Any debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The amendment to Section 1 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further sections to the amendment.
Is there correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Moyle and seconded by Representative Crane.
If there are no objections, the correction to title of House Bill 265 will be considered read. You have heard the motion for correction to title. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and correction to title is adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No further amendments to the bill.
Good gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that is had under consideration House Bill 265 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee rise and report.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Committee of the whole be dissolved.
The House will be in order. Good gentleman from District 13.
Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee of the Whole House, report that we have had under consideration House Bill 231, House Bill 265, and report them back without recommendation as amended. We have also had under consideration Senate Bill 1072 as amended, Senate Bill 1116 as amended, and report progress and beg leave sit again. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carried. House Bills 231 and 265 will be referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee for engrossing. House Bills, Senate Bills 1072 as amended and 1116 as amended will be retained on general orders. And that's it. The House will now advance to the 11th, or return, without objection, the House will return to the 11th order of business, third reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 11th order. Gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, will you put the House at ease while we wait for the Education Committee, please?
The House will be at ease.
Welcome to Idaho in Session, Legislature Live. Idaho in Session is sponsored by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation, Union Pacific Foundation, Idaho Association of Counties, Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, Association of Idaho Cities, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Welcome to Idaho in Session, Legislature Live. Idaho in Session is sponsored by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation, Union Pacific Foundation, Idaho Association of Counties, Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, Association of Idaho Cities, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment.
House will be in order. Before going at ease, the House was at the 11th order. The House is at the 11th order. The gentleman from District 21.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask a point of personal privilege.
The gentleman has the floor.
I'd like to introduce the students of the 5th grade at Silver Sage Elementary School that are in the balcony or in the gallery on behalf of myself and the other representative from District 21.
Welcome to the gallery of the House. The lady from District 5.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Lady has the floor.
I would like to ask the body to welcome a first-year law student from the University of Idaho. Jared Larson is in the gallery.
Gentleman from 14.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask unanimous consent that House Bill 38 hold its place on the calendar for one day.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, House Bill 38 will hold its place on the third reading calendar for one legislative day. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 259. Good lady from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quite have my act together here. I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Speaker.
Good lady.
I would ask for further reading of the bill be dispensed with for.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good lady from District 9 is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, this is a bill that will help out the school districts. Often, well, hopefully not too often, but sometimes there is a case, a criminal case, that involves an employee, especially a teacher maybe of the district. And if there is a criminal court order regarding that employee that does not allow them to be around children so they cannot fulfill their contract, this is going to allow those school boards to place that employee on unpaid leave. And we heard from about several instances where those employees were put on paid leave as they sat in jail. And the school district still had to pay for their substitute, plus they had to pay for their salary. So they came to ask us for some relief for that, to be able to place them on unpaid leave because they could not fulfill their contract. So I will open debate on this. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good ladies and good gentlemen, while we sympathize with the school district's need to have something in place for when there's an allegation, we also recognize that in this country you're innocent until proven guilty. And our concern here is that it could be as simple as you have a husband and wife working in the same building, and they're going through a divorce, and there's a court order that they're to not have any contact. And so I do have a trailer bill that I am hoping to introduce in the House Education Committee. And in this bill, what we would do is put that money into an escrow account, and the school district would be allowed to pay for the substitute while this is being investigated or while it's in the court system, because we sometimes know that court system moves very slowly. If the person is...
Good lady, we need to be debating the bill that's in front of us, not the trailer bill.
Okay. Well, hopefully there's a compromise that we can come to, but this bill, as written, is not a good bill. It does not protect the innocent. We know that we need to protect children in the classroom, but I think we can come up with a solution that will not only protect those children in the classroom, but also protect the teacher who's still under contract, cannot get another job, and has not had their day in court. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the lady from District 9 yield to a question?
Will the lady from District 9 yield to a question?
The lady yields.
The lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good lady from 9. On a similar note, I guess one of the concerns I have, and I don't know if this was brought up in the committee, and I guess I'm asking that question, that once an individual, if they are found not guilty, are they then paid the back pay or not?
Lady from 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. That did come up, and no, there is not a provision, and I believe that's what the trailer bill is about.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the lady would yield to a question.
Will the lady from 9 yield to a question?
The lady yields.
The lady yields.
Thank you. Lady, I'm looking at Part C and trying to understand the implications of that one with involuntary leave if the district decides it needs to conduct an investigation. Is that unpaid leave as well?
Lady from 9.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I'm trying to read C.
We proved yesterday we have all day.
Well, in that case. Good lady, I'm not sure if that actually came up in the committee. This is an involuntary leave of absence shall continue until the board has made its decision. But I think the only way they cannot pay is when there is a criminal court order that bans them from even being there.
Thank you, good lady. To debate the bill, please.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you. I guess I would refer all of you to Part C there. I think there's
Good lady, could you restate the question and the answer that you thought you got?
Sure, yes. Part C on the bill, which is new language, talks about a period of involuntary leave of absence if it's due to the district's need to conduct an investigation into the conduct of the employee. And it talks about that going up to a 60-day period of time. And I don't think there's clarity there, at least that I can see, about whether that is paid or unpaid leave. And it seems to me that the conditions are quite loosely stated there as to what would be the situation that would require the district to decide that it needs to conduct this investigation. And that seems to me to be a big problem with the legislation.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 21.
Thank you, Speaker. To debate in favor and perhaps answer.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. That question did come up in committee, and the answer was that during the limited 60-day investigation that the school was conducting, that there would be a leave involuntary, but with pay, since it was not a criminal or a court action. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, would the good lady from District 9 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members of the House, for your indulgence on this. What we believed in the committee was if a person could not fulfill their contract because of a criminal court order, which are not issued indiscriminately. A criminal court order is a very, very serious offense or allegation, and this is to protect children. The school districts are in the business of protecting the children and assuring their safety. And so this is to assure their safety. So I would ask you to please vote for this bill. Thank you.
The debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 259 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Collins. Collins votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 56 aye, 13 nay, 1 absent, excused. House Bill 259 is passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 259 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 260. Good lady from District 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 260 be dispensed with.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good lady has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 260 addresses the mediation process between a school district and its local education association. During the process, if both parties aren't able to come to an agreement, there's a time certain when that agreement should be reached and can be reached, and if it hasn't by then, the school district will then impose a last best offer. These mediations are to be done in good faith. It makes sure that, and if the agreements aren't, let's see, it says right here that if no agreement has been reached, it should be the school board members who are elected by the patrons to run their district that should make the final decision. Finality in these decisions need to be addressed in time for the district to prepare and approve its budget for the fiscal year. This legislation would require that both parties negotiate in good faith. School board members are statutorily responsible for the operations of their local districts, including collective bargaining, and in order to effectively carry out these duties, they need to be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, and they need more flexibility in prioritizing the use of their scarce resources. I was in negotiations a year ago with my school district, and the offer that we made was a very good offer. And what happened was there was a memorandum of understanding that had been brought forth by our association. And that memorandum of understanding said that if the propositions passed or failed in the fall, that we would be required to go back to our 2010 contract with them. And we could not agree to that. And so at that point, we did walk away from the table. But our bargaining up to that point was in good faith, and we feel like that was brought in at the last minute, that wasn't in good faith, and so we did leave the table at that point. This legislation does have a sunset clause on it. It will be in effect until the time that we can look at it, until next year. So there is a sunset clause on this. That Idaho Education Association was not in favor of this, but the Idaho School Boards Association and the Idaho Administrators Association were.
Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the lady yield for a question?
Will the lady from District 31 yield to a question?
Yes, I will.
Lady yields.
I'm a little confused by the term last best offer. If you could help me understand that a little bit better.
Lady from 31.
During the process of negotiations, the offers that are made usually progress, I guess is what you want to say. And at one point during negotiations that I've been in, they've come to the point where the offer that we have made is the best offer that the school district can make at all. And that's what's considered a last best offer.
Thank you, good lady. I'd like to debate this bill.
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I was confused by the term last best offer. And I would imagine anybody negotiating would be confused if one party has the ability to make an offer and consider that the last best offer. It doesn't sound like negotiations to me. What happens if the district or one of the parties decides to wait for the June 10th deadline and consider their last best offer the only offer? I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that the gentleman on the second floor convened a task force to look at educational issues. And that task force has just started really working. Before we start implementing new legislation that the task force may reject or change, I think we should wait for the task force to finish its work. I can only ask that you vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 14.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it might be helpful for this committee to understand something else that is also taking place. Both the Senate chairman as well as myself, with discussions with leadership, have, and you'll see a resolution here very soon, are forming what we're calling an interim committee. You'll notice in this legislation there's a sunset clause, and this sunset clause is in there for a very specific reason, and that is that we feel that, one, our school boards have come to us, they've said passionately they need these tools to do their job. But we also realize that we, as this body, need to continue to learn and to grow and understand the implications of this. And so we have are forming an interim committee that will look at these specific issues. Because I do think that there's data that's going to be collected. I know there's data going to be collected that we can then learn from and hopefully make this better in the future. So that's why that sunset clause is in there. Obviously, the task force, which I also happen to be a member of, has been meeting. But the State Board has clearly indicated that labor issues are not in their domain. They're not. That is not something they're responsible for. That is clearly our responsibility. We're taking our responsibility seriously, and that's why this interim committee is being formed. So I felt like that was background information that was relevant to this body, specific to this legislation, as well as some other pieces of legislation you'll be seeing here in the future.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, am a member of the task force, and what I'm asking you to do today is set this bill aside to take a no vote. I'm asking for your no vote. I have talked to many of the teachers and parents on that task force, and they feel like this has the potential to derail the whole process. And I think what we're doing there is some really good things. We have school board members, we have state board members, we have the Department of Education, we have parents and teachers and union people there. And business people. I think we're going to see some really positive education redesign. And I think this is a piece of legislation that we can wait on and give the task force a chance, every possible chance to be successful. And if we need to come back next year, we can, but I'm asking you to vote no on this today. Let the task force work, let them take their plan out to the public and move education forward here in Idaho. Thank you.
Is the gentleman from District 33?
Mr. Speaker and members of the House, I urge a yes vote on this piece of legislation. This legislation really strikes to the very heart of democracy. In any unit of government, the elected representatives of the people have to have the final say as to what government policy should be. That's essential to a democratic system of government. Certainly, teachers should be brought to the workplace, to the table. The Idaho Education Association should have full opportunity to come to the table, to present their concerns, and to negotiate. That's important. That's fundamental. I was a teacher for 37 years, and during that entire time, I really never saw anything really disruptive in the negotiation process. As I recall, there was never a single strike, never a single walkout, and if there was, I didn't participate. I was just astounded, you know. Here I was in this wonderful profession. I loved more than anything else in the world to teach history. And there I was getting paid for it. I couldn't believe it. I'd pinch myself every day. I was getting paid for teaching history. And we had this marvelous relationship between our school board and the Idaho Education Association, our teachers. It was really generally harmonious. And that's generally been the record in Idaho. But I think there needs to be finality to the law. I mean, there has to be a time where decisions have to be made. After everyone's been brought to the table, the decision has to be made. The public employees unions are not elected by the people, and they do not answer to the public. They're not elected. And the school boards are elected. And I think we need this legislation. We need the sideboards. We've seen what's happened in other states where the public employees unions have become so powerful they almost control the government. I'm thinking of New York City, for example. The teachers' unions are so powerful in New York City that it's almost impossible to remove a teacher that is not doing his job. It's really, really, really difficult. We've seen the problems that public employees unions have created in California, where you have some firemen getting $150,000 retirement. I mean, the power is so immense. We need these sideboards. We've got a great atmosphere in Idaho, but we need these sideboards. There needs to be finality and recognize what democracy is. I urge a yes vote on this piece of legislation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members of the House.
Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is not New York. This is not California. There are many problems in other states. We have to deal with Idaho's issues and Idaho's problems. I think it is a fair statement that the teachers in the state of Idaho do not believe that they are being treated fairly. They do not believe that they are being respected. I don't mean to speak for them. That's my opinion. There are many teachers who may disagree with me. But I think that this legislation is particularly concerning because, in my view, it goes against what the people voted for last November. And I don't think that this body should override that. I happen to believe that education in Idaho is in trouble. And one of the things that I think we are in trouble with is, are we going to be able to keep good teachers in this state? And I think we need to think, today is a day when we do two things, maybe three. But one of the things we do is we put on the hat called employer of teachers. In a sense, this legislature, the school boards, the elected officials of this state are the boss. And when you look at the teaching profession, I think we have to admit there's a morale problem out there because of the way many teachers believe that they are treated, not listened to. And if we add to that not listening to the voters, what are we saying? Do we really think that we can successfully educate our children when our teachers so adamantly disagree with the public policies that have come out of this body over the last several years and were so soundly rejected last fall? Somebody is going to have to take a step towards reconciliation. And that task force was supposed to do that. And the School Boards Association decided to make an end run around the process. I think that was destructive, not constructive. I don't think this is a question about who's right and who's wrong, the teachers or the school boards. I think this is about trying to put, and it's a huge task, I will admit, but to some degree trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Because if we're not pulling together and we're pulling apart, we don't have the resources and the ability in this state to pull that one off and move education forward. Like it or not, teachers are an enormous part of the puzzle to education. I think it is fair to say that many of our communities have the best teachers they are ever going to be able to get. I want to say that again. I think many of our communities have the best teachers they are ever going to be able to get. And as we make the profession of teaching in Idaho less and less attractive, the quality of our teachers in our schools is going to go down and down and down. And we need to be asking ourselves, why do people go to our rural communities and teach? Why do they do that? Why are they there? And will they stay there? Now, in my community, if a teacher loses a job, if a teacher gets a bad contract and doesn't want that contract, in an urban area with some 400,000 people and a lot of different kinds of jobs, they don't necessarily have a problem finding another job, or even if they have a problem finding another job, they've got a prospect of another job. And they won't have to sell their house, and they won't have to move, and they won't have to take their kids out of their schools and go across the state or across the country to a new position. Think about what you're saying to the teachers that teach in smaller towns when they feel that they cannot successfully negotiate the provisions they need to make it attractive to them to pick up and go to that town, knowing that if things don't work out in their job in that town, they'll have to leave. They'll have to leave the community. that makes recruiting, I think, very difficult. So when you recruit an employee, there are two things that I, as an employer, have to think about. I have to think about compensation, and I have to think about working conditions, and working conditions go to the kind of the heart of the contract. And I would say this, when you give one side the ability to simply hold out and not reach an agreement, and then the deadline comes and it passes, and you can't, as the teacher, the employee, do anything about that, there really isn't any negotiation. I think that's what we need to recognize. In the scenario that we've created, there really isn't going to be any negotiation. Now, we can say we don't like the fact that we may have to pay some deference to our teachers, but I think it's an economic, a marketplace reality that fewer and fewer teachers are going to perceive many of the communities in our state as a place they want to go to and try to build a life. And if I'm correct about that, then my prediction is that legislation like this is going to make it very difficult for us to educate our children, no matter what kinds of reforms eventually come out of the task force. Because at the end of the day, the only thing in an educational system that really matters is the quality of the teacher working with our children. So for those reasons, I will be voting against the bill.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You're next, okay? Mr. Speaker, I think this bill is about the last best offer and about good faith negotiation. You cannot negotiate when you have a deadline and say, that at the end of on June 10th or whatever what the date is, June 15th, that we'll take the last best offer. Suppose they aren't working in good faith. Suppose they will not take a levy to the voters, and they say instead of taking a levy and asking for a supplemental, that we're going to ask all the teachers to take a 20% decrease in their salaries. There's no reason why they can't get away with that. So a school board, instead of doing the best they can, might not do the best. I kind of go back to something I did a long time ago. I remember going to small claims court with a guy that wouldn't pay me. I had done some photography for him. It cost me about $1,000, the bill was about $1,000. And this guy wanted to get his photography done on the cheap. So when we went to the court, he wanted to negotiate down. And I didn't negotiate. I had done the hard work. I'd done given him what he wanted. He knew ahead of what the bill was going to be. And the good news is, after about 4 hours of negotiation, where all I said was no, 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 finally the judge said, okay, pay her what she's due. So there was an impartial third party that said, you are due this amount. You told him ahead of time you're due this amount. That's what should happen in negotiations. If at the end of the day, June 15th or whatever, you have not negotiated in good faith, that there should be a third party. So I think this bill needs some work. I just am concerned about good faith and don't think that school boards have any reason to really negotiate in good faith. So I'm going to be voting no.
Is there further debate? Lady from 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In our committee on this bill, we were handed a memorandum of understanding. And remember, this bill has a sunset of just 1 year. So this memorandum of understanding was signed by the Idaho School Boards Association and the Idaho Association of School Administrators, but was refused to be signed by the IEA. Mr. Speaker, may I read from this?
Without objection, the lady may read.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obligations of the parties. The parties to this MOU agree as follows. 1. Each respective organization shall advise and encourage its membership to engage in good faith negotiations when addressing the 2013-14 Negotiated Agreement Collective Bargaining Agreement. Good faith for the purposes of this MOU shall include an honest effort to reach an acceptable agreement within the time allotted by Idaho Code. Number 2, each representative organization shall advise and encourage its membership not to approach and engage in negotiations in such a manner as to manipulate information and fact that will be collected for data analysis associated with any sunset provision of any proposed legislation. And that's exactly what this bill has, is the sunset. We were also told by one of the superintendents of a very large school district that without a date certain, the budget cycle could not be completed in a timely manner. I would urge support of this bill. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Gentleman from 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with my cohort here that this seems to me to put an end to negotiation. The good gentleman from 33 is trying to protect us from what's seen in other states. And I tell you what the real problem is here. The real problem with this bill and several others is that we have seen a systematic disinvestment in K-12 education. And that is why our school boards are grasping for straws, looking for a leg up in so many ways, and are taking it out on what is the largest expense they have, their employees. I submit to you that if you take negotiations away from the employees, you leave the employees little option. If it is an intolerable or disadvantageous contract, they have no option but to leave or to strike. I think that we have to be really, really careful when we do away with negotiations. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Good lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to ask a question of the good lady from District 9.
So lady from 9, yield.
Certainly.
You guys look cozy back there by that post. Lady yields.
Thank you. I should have just leaned around the corner, huh? But when we heard from the superintendent of one of the largest districts in Idaho, I think she was asked if there had ever been a problem setting budgets in the past when there wasn't a deadline. Do you remember what her response was?
Lady from 9.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good lady. I'd like to read from the minutes if I could.
Lady asked to read it, unanimous consent. Good lady from 18, you need to remain standing, please.
Thank you.
Is there objection to her reading? Hearing none, good lady from 9 may read.
In the minutes, Mr. Speaker and good lady, she spoke about this bill providing tools to manage her school district, to benefit the salaries, to benefit the teachers, to benefit the students. She said they had not had a major problem, but they were trying to prevent one. And then she went on to talk about needing a date certain. So that was the recollection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there further debate? Lady from 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to debate in favor of the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all due respect to my good colleagues here that have expressed concern about negotiations in good faith, I would express that this bill represents the very act of good faith in preserving the right of locally elected school board members to deliver education to the children in their communities. This bill is not an end run by the School Boards Association and certainly does not eliminate the negotiations process. In fact, they could have brought language seeking to limit it as it was before to salary and benefits. They did not. What they chose to do was set up a timeline deadline for the process. We are under statutory obligation to have our budgets adopted. We have publication deadlines that we must meet, and we have contracts that we must issue to educators so they will know under what conditions they will be working in the previous year. And it does us absolutely no good. We harm only ourselves when we stall those decisions. Depending on the size of the district, there are thousands of placement decisions to be made that all hinge on what the budget looks like. And it takes time to make those decisions. If we don't balance the budget, we go financially under faster than you can say General Motors. This is about preserving our public education system to deliver it for the children in our system. We are under unique circumstances this year because previously labor agreements existed in perpetuity unless agreed to by both parties to address any particular provision contained within the agreement. This year, agreements are 1 year because we are operating under language, and the Attorney General has ruled on that. So we have a hard and fast deadline of June 30th this year that we need to come up with a solution for. Therein lies the timeliness of this particular bill, and therein lies the nature of the sunset clause as well, giving us time to assess what we can refine. Regarding the term last best offer, that comes from previous statutory language that was passed during, I believe, the 2010 session related to financial emergencies when literally school districts were not going to have the ability to continue their existence if they were not able to draw a hard and fast financial line related to the most expensive provision of their operation, which is salaries and benefits. In my district, it's 89%, I believe, this year in the Bonneville School District. So that is where that term last best offer came from. It was originally, this is one of the bills that has gone under significant negotiation, and originally the term in the bill was good faith offer. That term was removed at the request of the IEA, and the term last best offer was put in there. Also at their request, the language about mediators was included, but that still does need to operate on that timeline. I urge your support of this bill to support our locally elected school board members with the authority they need to preserve the system that not only benefits our children, but benefits our teachers as well. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 28.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the lady from 30 yield to a question?
Will the lady from District 30 yield to a question?
The lady yields.
The lady yields.
Mr. Speaker and good lady, thank you. If this bill does not pass, if this legislation is not enacted now, what happens this year in a negotiation where there's not agreement? What is the consequence?
Lady from 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman from 28, that is a very good question, for which I have no answer.
Thank you, good lady.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to debate against the bill. There are a few things that have come up that I feel should perhaps be addressed. The administrators in districts to whom I have spoken really have found the deadlines imposed by consolidated elections to be a much bigger problem than any other when it comes to putting their budgets together. And we've had a couple of members of the school board talk about their perspectives on things, and I guess I have quite another because I have been a negotiator for the Idaho Education Association in my past. But really, if there's a deadline, there are no negotiations. When the playing field is so uneven as to impose a final date after which one side can impose last best offer is really not fair. But the other thing that I think we really should think about. You know, sometimes over time I have really been interested in whether there's something of a disconnect between this body and the people that we serve. And that question has come to me when I have seen certain public opinion surveys that expressed views of the public relative to decisions that the legislature has made. And, you know, the best public opinion poll there is happens in November at the time of the general election. And last November, Prop 1 was on the ballot, and we had a very open process which gave opportunity to discuss these particular issues and have the people weigh in, and the people told us that they rejected those measures. Now, that having been done, it seems to me the fairest thing we can do is at least give it a year's time where the committee that's put together can discuss issues. There's no reason to leave labor issues out of those because they were part of Prop 1. They should be part of that decision or part of that discussion. I think that the sunset clause is quite meaningless. It doesn't take very long to come back the next year and say, well, we'll take that out. And I think what's more important is that we need to have a complete, thorough discussion on all of these issues on Props 1, 2, and 3 and respect the public vote and then come back next year and make the best decision that we can.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, would a good lady from District 31 care to close the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the lady from 30 pretty much gave a closing for me, but I'll add a few more things. This is imposing an ending date, but there is not a beginning date for negotiations. Negotiations can start at any time. I know there's been concern that we've got a short amount of time here, but negotiations do not have a beginning time on them. They can start whenever. This bill and a lot of these education bills that are coming forward this year are not being brought forth as a club over the head of the teachers. They're not trying to say that the teachers are doing a bad job, that the teachers are doing an inadequate job. They are for the school boards who are elected and the administrators who they've hired to manage the school districts to be able to get those budgets set, and to be able to financially manage their districts, because when it comes to the dollars that come into those districts, those are the people that are responsible in the end for how those monies are spent and if they're spent wisely and prudently, and that's what they're trying to do with this legislation. And I would ask for your green light.
The debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 260 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative, does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 55 aye, 14 nay, 1 absent is excused. House Bill 260 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none. Oh, there is a pair at the desk.
Mr. Speaker, there's a pair at the desk. Representative Erpelding voted nay, and Representative Holtzclaw voted aye.
Thank you. House Bill 260 will now be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, can you put the House at ease so we can hear from the Consul General of Canada?
The House will be at ease so we can hear from the Consul General of Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Dennis Stevens, Consul General of Canada. Consul General Stevens is Canada's senior representative in the Pacific Northwest, appointed by Canadian Prime Minister Harper in 2010. Consul General Stevens has been invited to speak to the body in conjunction with Idaho's Canadian Days taking place in Boise this week. Mr. Stevens.
We'd like to welcome you. Welcome to the House. On behalf of the House of Representatives, we would like to welcome the Consul General from our good friends and good neighbors to the north. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing your remarks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, distinguished representatives, I'm honored for this opportunity to share a few words with you today about your relationship with Canada. First, I'd like to express my appreciation to Representative George Eskridge. George, you're a great friend of Canada, and your efforts to strengthen that friendship benefit your fellow Idahoans and people throughout the Pacific Northwest on both sides of the border. So thank you. I'd like to congratulate all of you as well on the 150th anniversary of Idaho's officially becoming a U.S. territory. We would, of course, love to have you be part of Canada, but if that's not possible, we're very appreciative that you're our great next-door neighbors. So it may seem a bit undiplomatic of me as a diplomat when I begin by observing another historic milestone, which is that 200 years ago, Canada and the United States were in the midst of something called the War of 1812. For Canada, the War of 1812 was a historic step in establishing itself as an independent country. Next year, we'll celebrate another important historic aspect of that war, which is the 200th anniversary of its conclusion and of peace between our two countries. Now, we think of our countries as young, but in the history of the world, that is a very long time for two next-door neighbors to have enjoyed peace between them. And in fact, we enjoy a great deal more than just peace. Through friendship, hard work, and shared values, we've created what may be the most successful bilateral relationship in history. We have had a long and illustrious history as allies in peace and security operations, and that continues today in NATO, in NORAD, and for 10 years in Afghanistan. Canada and the United States have one of the largest, most integrated, and most vibrant trading relationships in the world. Canada is this state's #1 trading partner, your #1 export destination, as well as #1 for the U.S. as a whole. 40,000 jobs in this state, and about 8 million across the United States, depend on trade with Canada. Last year alone, Idaho businesses of all sorts, from semiconductor plants to farms to mines, exported more than $1.3 billion worth of goods to Canada. And as many of you know, our commercial ties go well beyond shipping finished products to one another. We make things together for the global marketplace. We innovate together. We create jobs together. But we can't afford to coast, particularly given global competition, continuing economic uncertainty, and the urgent need to create more jobs. We need to ensure that that cross-border trade that's so vital to all of us continues to flow efficiently. We certainly need to avoid new barriers, including Buy American or Buy Canadian type policies that could only impact our shared competitiveness. And we can do, and we are doing more. A little over a year ago, the Government of Canada, the Government of the United States, announced 2 action plans to speed up legitimate trade and travel between our two countries while improving our shared security. The action plan on perimeter security aims to make it more difficult for criminals and others who would do us harm to cross the border, but a good deal easier for lawful businesses and those who want to visit family and friends. Second action plan, focusing on regulatory cooperation, aims to reduce the paper burden for companies that want to do business in both countries. As Prime Minister Harper has said, these agreements can represent the most significant step forward in Canada-U.S. cooperation since the NAFTA was signed. We've made some good progress in implementing them, but frankly, there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I thank the Idaho legislature for the memorial it passed last spring in support of this agreement and for the contribution that several of you have made to them. But I'd really encourage you to speak up and to provide additional ideas from your communities. These are national initiatives, but to succeed, they will require state and local communities and businesses to bring forward practical ideas. And my team and I at the consulate would very much welcome any ideas you have for how we can improve and increase that cross-border trade for the sake of jobs and economic growth in both of our countries. Now, one of the most exciting aspects of our relationship these days is our energy partnership. Canada is your largest supplier of all forms of imported energy: natural gas, electricity, uranium, and oil. Even with all of the energy development underway and anticipated in your country, U.S. energy self-sufficiency is likely a long way off. Canada's oil sands are the third largest oil reserve in the world, and as existing technologies become commercially available, Canada's oil reserves could vault us ahead of Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. As such, they are a major resource for our shared North American energy security. In moving together towards North American energy independence, we will send far fewer petrodollars to unfriendly, unreliable suppliers who take our money with one hand and who threaten us with the other. Canada fully respects the right of the United States to make its own decisions about the proposed Keystone XL pipeline. But if your country so chooses, that pipeline would, at capacity, allow you to free yourself completely of oil imports from Venezuela. We will build it together, and that will create thousands of jobs and generate billions in revenues here in the United States. I appreciate that vote of support. Some argue that by stopping Keystone, your country and the world will somehow move off of oil. But the fact is, for the foreseeable future, oil will remain the dominant fuel. Moreover, the investments that Canadian industry and governments have made to improve the environmental aspects of oil sands development have been yielding results, a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions over the past 2 decades. So as the United States makes its decision about Keystone, it's important that the full picture is taken into consideration. With Canada as a strong, willing partner, both of our countries have really an extraordinary opportunity to work together in moving towards a lower carbon future while taking advantage of the economic and energy security benefits from fossil fuel production, including the oil sands. In this state alone, INL researchers and Canadian research organizations have been working on a number of energy projects, including cutting-edge hybrid energy systems that combine nuclear, fossil, and renewable resources. This can be the next great achievement in a partnership that has served both of our countries so well. So thank you again for honoring Canada by inviting me here today, and thank you for your valued partnership and friendship. I look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you so much.
Sir, we appreciate your coming today, and we look forward to a long and fruitful relationship between your country and our state. Thank you for coming again. Gentleman from 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House recess until the hour of 1:30.
Second. Do I hear a second?
Second the motion. Mr. Speaker, personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry I missed my cue, but I have to admit that today we're all kind of a little slow, so please excuse me.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Oh, good gentleman from 3.
Stand for personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I'd ask you and the rest of the body to join me in welcoming my wife, Shirlene, my daughter, Marissa, and my granddaughter, Gabrielle, to the House chambers today. They're visiting us.
Welcome to the House chambers. Are there any other announcements before we put the motion? Good lady from District 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democrats will be having a caucus meeting at 3:30, our regular caucus meeting. Thank you.
Gentleman from 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good ladies and gentlemen. Due to yesterday's long debate, which I'm going to call our caucus meeting, because the Democrats did not debate, and I did appreciate that, we will not be having a caucus meeting today.
Yes, I'm going to have the clerk read the afternoon committee meetings.
The Standing Committee meeting announcements for this afternoon. Agricultural Affairs Committee will meet upon adjournment. East Wing, Room 42, Andrus, Chairman. Environment, Energy, and Technology Committee will meet this afternoon upon adjournment. East Wing, Room 41, Rabel, Chairman. Local Government Committee will meet this afternoon upon adjournment. East Wing, Room 5, Barrett, Chairman. Transportation and Defense Committee will meet this afternoon upon adjournment. East Wing, Room 40, Palmer, Chairman. Ways and Means Committee will meet this afternoon upon adjournment. East Wing, Room 403, Anderson, Chairman.
Good gentleman from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ways and Means will actually be meeting immediately after this session.
Upon recess.
Upon recess.
You've all heard the motion to recess. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. The House stands at recess until the hour of 11:30 p.m. Oh, yeah, 1:30.
Ask Julie that same question, I guess. I don't know who that's right. I don't know who had the answer, but it was a good.
To Idaho in Session, Legislature Live, the House channel. Idaho in Session is sponsored by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Foundation, Union Pacific Foundation, Idaho Association of Counties, Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, Association of Idaho Cities, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment.
Thank you.